On KCCK, I'm Dennis Green, and my guest today is from the Old Creamery Theater, the upcoming production Billy Bishop Goes to War, Vaughn Irving.
Hey there.
We've met a few times.
Yeah, a couple times before.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I was asking if this was, if you've been in the midst of several shows or just about kind of getting started, and you said this is the first of a long run.
This is, so I'm in town now for Billy Bishop, and then The Matchmaker, which is coming up right after that, and Andrews Brothers, which is in June. So, but this is my first one this season, and so I'm not running around like crazy as much as everybody else down at the Old Creamery.
Well, welcome back to Iowa.
Well, thank you.
So, remind me again of your, where you went to school and where you're from and what you've been doing in between the time we last saw you.
Oh, all right. I grew up in New Mexico, Santa Fe, and then I went to college at Illinois Wesleyan University, which is not too far from here. And then I ended up traveling around the country for a while, doing theater all over the place.
Like most actors do.
Right. Take the jobs where they come. Now I'm based in Washington, D.C., so I've been out there for 3 years and take the opportunity to come back to the Midwest anytime I can to do some theater here at the Old Creamery.
Well, it's in the studio.
In the
smaller stage, the intimate studio, which is a very, very cool space.
It is a lovely little space. I think it only seats probably 70, 80 people, something like that, but it's really intimate and wonderful, and you feel like you're right in there as part of the action.
And you described this as fundamentally more or less a one-man show.
Yeah.
So most of it's on you, but there must be a couple of other smaller things going on too.
Yes, so the cast is really two people. It's myself and the piano player.
Oh, okay.
But I play 20 characters in this show, and he has the occasional line from behind the piano that he comes in, and he sings a lot of the songs with me. But it's a very unique style. It's storytelling with music, and it's all about Billy Bishop, the World War I fighter pilot.
And he was Canadian.
Canadian fighter pilot, yes. And the third highest scoring pilot in the whole war, which was surprising to me because before approaching this, I had never heard of him at all. Though I guess the Red Baron is really the only fighter pilot from World War I that I know off the top of my head.
Right, and those are the only two we know. So tell me a little bit about Billy Bishop.
Well, Billy Bishop was a Canadian. As I said before, he was not super successful in school. He struggled his way through things, and he ended up in the military at the beginning of the war and was tired. He was in the cavalry and was literally stuck in the mud on his horse when he saw a plane flying and thought, wow, that looks a lot better than this. And through a lot of hard work and a bit of chance, he ended up finally making it to the Royal Flying Corps and becoming one of the greatest fighter pilots of the war.
Now, does this story just talk about him as a young man in this time of discovery, or does it follow him through his life?
It follows him through the war. So in 1918 is when the story ends, and I think that he's only 24 or 25 at that time. So you don't get to see too much. There is a sort of flash forward to World War II once he's more established as a veteran. He did a lot of amazing things after the war too. He came to America and helped set up. Well, not set up, but advised the Air Force, which was the fledgling new department, because airplanes were brand spanking new. So he did that. He did a few tours over in Europe during the war. Ended up with 72 planes shot down, which is just unbelievable. Red Baron had 80, to put that in perspective. So he wasn't far behind. Continued his career. Advising militarily, and wrote a lovely little memoir that the play is sort of based on. And the play has a very interesting history, too, because it was written by these two fellows in Canada who were an actor and a musician who found themselves out of work and discovered this story that they didn't really know about and thought, you know what, this sounds really cool. Wrote this two-person show, toured it around Canada for a while. It eventually got picked up and brought to the States, and eventually all the way to Broadway. So this play itself has a lovely bit of history with it. I lost my train there.
Talking with Vaughn Irving from the Old Creamery Theater about the upcoming Billy Bishop Goes to War. So you said it's it's a two-person show. That the music is the pianist is an important part of this, and also has some lines. So describe that interplay for me just a little bit.
It is a really unique structure. So I come out and start talking as Billy Bishop, and a lot of underscoring from the pianist, and then sort of subtly the pianist begins to like insert himself in as a character, as another, almost as another war veteran, as someone who is the confidant and the comrade of our main protagonist. And together they sing a lot of war tunes and have this sense of togetherness that no one else can really understand what we went through, but we're going to try.
And who is your cohort in this?
Andrew Crow is his name, a pianist, and he actually plays a few other instruments in the show as well, including the violin, harmonica, and he and I actually formed a band a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
Called Killer Paisley, and we were playing together for a long time. And when this show came around, it just so happened that they hired both of us to work together again. So it's really wonderful because we already have this rapport and this dynamic.
You have a relationship already.
Yes,
Oh,
and so that saved us a lot of time because we can just play off each other in a way that I think two strangers would have to develop a little bit more.
Well, not to diminish, anyone's story, having been through, any veteran, or having, been through a war or a conflict or anything like that. And of course, now today we have so many young veterans out, in the community, after the conflicts in the Middle East. But fundamentally, the story of all this is kind of similar. Trying to get through, maybe dealing with loss of loved ones, potentially, dealing with being wounded, and of course the ever-present fear. How do you try and bring something new to that story, which is honestly, it's been told a lot?
That's a really great question. What I think this play does that's really unique is it doesn't prescribe a morality, whether war is good, war is bad, but it does examine both sides of this coin. You see the victories and the necessity for war, but you also see the atrocities and the horror of it, and you see a man who's trying to balance it, because frankly, the only thing that Billy Bishop has been successful at in his life up to this point is war,
is shooting people from airplanes.
Yeah, and it's this very sort of tricky scale of morality and what's good and what's bad, and am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? And I think that level is something really interesting. The playwrights have a foreword in the script where they talk about when they brought the play to America, that Americans viewed it as either pro-war or anti-war and had trouble seeing that balance. And this was in the 1980s, and I think that our views of war have evolved a bit since then. But coming from Canada, they had a very nuanced view of what what war was in general, and they said that they had trouble translating that to an American audience.
Oh, interesting.
And so I think for that reason, it's a very cool piece to come in and see.
And very timely.
Yeah. And you also see Canada was a colony fighting for England.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah, in World War I.
In World War I. And so you have this level where they're fighting for the mother country. They're not even fighting for
their own country.
Sure. And it's a very odd place to be in. And there's a lot of British characters who acknowledge the fact that we're relying on all of these people who we've essentially subjugated in order to save our empire. And really interesting, odd dynamic in there as well.
A lot of different levels.
Yeah.
And probably quite a challenge for you and Andrew to bring all of these things off. And you said, what, 22 characters?
20 characters for myself, and I think Andrew probably plays 2 or 3. So, yes, it is. It is a bit of a challenge. And a really fun challenge, too, because there's there are so many levels to it, and there are so many characters and so many accents from all over the world.
Oh,
and
sure.
it's a real gift to be able to dig my teeth into something like this, because a lot of times you need to work your way to the top of the pyramid before anyone will give you the chance to do something like that.
Well, it sounds like fascinating play with, as we said, a lot of different levels, and opens when?
It opens on April 9th and runs through April 26th.
Okay, so next week through the end of the month.
Yep. And you can get tickets by calling 319-622-6262 or visiting oldcreamery.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Vaughn Irving from the Old Creamery Theater in the upcoming production of Billy Bishop Goes to War. Good luck memorizing all the lines.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm sure you're going to be
I've been working on it for a very long time already.
working on that right up until opening night. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you very much.